Damn, crazy.
We are back, folks. Welcome to a new episode. Today we have a special episode for you today. I don't want to waste any time. Let's jump right into it. I'm your host, Francis, and today we're talking about two of the very best boxers on the planet finally stepping into the ring together on January 31st in Madison Square Garden. We're talking about Teofimo Lopez versus Shakur Stevenson. But here's what most people don't know. Lopez and Shakur has been on a collision course since they were teenagers. Can you imagine this? Being teenagers and watching each other's career and know in your heart that one day I will need to face that person. This rivalry didn't start with a Twitter beef or a press conference theatrics. This started in the amateur gyms over a decade ago. Teofimo watched Shakur win silver medal at the 2016 Olympics and thought, I want to fight this guy. Shakur watched Teofimo shock the world against Lomachenko and thought, hey, I'm better than him. They've been talking trash for years. They've turned each other's call out, and they watch each other climb their division. But now, folks, we finally have this fight. They're settling it on January 31st. This isn't just Lopez versus Stevenson. Okay, this is technical perfection versus explosive power. That's what I will call this. And the crazy part, this fight almost didn't happen multiple times. I'm breaking down the real history of this rivalry, the amateur roots, the parallel careers, the social media warfare. I'm also diving into the business complication and why January 31st is the fight both men have been waiting for since they turned pro. This is from the amateur to MSG, the real history of Lopez versus Stevenson. But before we get into things, folks, I just want to say, if you made it this far into this video, you're clearly serious about combat sports. So if you're new here, I'm going to ask you if you can subscribe to this channel, turn on your notification, because every week I break down the biggest fight in either UFC, boxing, or any combat sport. And when you subscribe, you're not just helping yourself getting the best fight content, you're also helping me to grow this channel into something special. So I want to thank you in advance for doing so. If you've been rocking with me since day one, I just want to say thank you. And if you are just new to this channel, please go ahead and subscribe if you can. Let's go back to where it all started. To understand this rivalry, you have to go back before each of these guys became champion. Back when they were just elite amateurs representing the United States. You have Shakur Stevenson, the amateur phenom. He was basically born into this boxing thing. Okay. And he was born in Newark, New Jersey. His grandfather, Wally Moses, went by Shahid, was a former boxer himself who trained fighters. So boxing is really in Shakur's DNA. Okay. As an amateur, Shakur was very dominant. As I mentioned before, he went to Rio in 2016 and he got a silver medal at the bantamweight. He lost in the finals against Cuba's elite Robesi Ramirez in a very controversial decision. But he did pretty well. Silver is a big deal. And, to get to the Olympics is a big deal. So That's one of his highlights. Also, he's a 3-time U.S. national champion. He's a 2015 Pan American silver medalist and a junior Olympics champion. So in total, Shakur had over 160 amateur fights and won the vast majority of them. His style was already fully formed as a teenager. Now, again, if this thing is in your DNA, you're going to see it. You're going to see it on them. You know, his slick defense, beautiful footwork, and the most important thing of all, he has a very high IQ, okay? Boxing IQ. He was the blueprint of what USA Boxing wanted in an amateur fight. By the time he went to Rio, Shakur was 19. He already been called a future champion at that time. And here is where the paths diverge. Teofimo Lopez, who was born in Brooklyn, in New York, he trained in New York. His father, Lopez Sr., was his coach, his motivator, and his biggest believer, which is amazing, right? To have your dad as your biggest supporter. Like, this is a recipe for success. If you can have close relative, because it basically lights a fire in you, right? And Teofimo was also an elite amateur. He went to the 2016 Olympic trials. He lost in the semifinals and didn't make it to the Olympic team. And again, I say, if you even make it to the semifinals, it's a big thing, guys. In 2015, he won the national Golden Glove champion at 132 pounds. And he had an estimated 150 plus amateur fight. Now, here is the thing. Teofimo didn't just have Shakur's amateur accolades. He didn't get to the Olympic. He was good, but Shakur was great at the amateur level. So, according to the interviews in years later, Teofimo watched Shakur in Rio. He watched him very closely and watched him win the silver medal. And even though Shakur lost in the finals, Teofimo saw how skilled he was. He said to himself, you know, I want to test myself against this guy. And that's what we're having. We're going to see these guys go at this thing because it's been years into the making, guys. It's been years into the making. In early interviews, when both turned pro, okay, there was respect between these two. And I still think there is, okay? Teofimo called Shakur one of the best amateurs he's ever seen. Shakur acknowledged Teofimo's power. But that respect had an edge because both of them knew that they were on a collision course. Both knew that eventually the boxing world would demand they fight. And that's what we're getting January 31st at Madison Square Garden. Now, the question was, who would get there first? Both Lopez and Stevenson turned professional in 2016. So it was the same year that this happened. And from that moment, we could see their careers run parallel, you know. And basically, it's parallel towards this moment. Shakur turned pro with Top Rank in 2017 after the Olympics. He did it the right way, very methodical, very patient, and very calculated. His record at the moment is 24-0 with 11 knockouts. 11, guys. And he has 3 world titles. He's undefeated. But here's the criticism that followed Shakur his entire career. That he's boring. His fights are technical masterpieces, but casual fans complain that he doesn't take risk. Now, my personal opinion is that if you're an actual fan of combat sports, whether it's MMA or boxing, you do have an appreciation for people that are very technical. And I'm one of those person. I enjoy watching not just the fight, but also the thinking that goes behind each setup, right? So there was complaint against him that he's boring, that he doesn't take risk, that he doesn't go for knockouts, and that he fight to win rounds and not to entertain, which I don't blame him, right? Because this is your career. You're fighting, yeah, it's the entertainment business, but you're also fighting with the understanding that you don't want to make any wild moves, because at the end of the day, this is your career, okay? And if you don't take care of yourself and do crazy stuff, you can get knocked out, and then you can suffer the consequences for that, such as concussion or anything like that, right? Which could leave you out for years, and then your income is affected by it. Now, his last fight was criticized because there was very low action. The fans weren't happy about this, and they booed the man, and promoters were very worried about the pay-per-view numbers. And Shakur's response, was kind of classic. I don't care. I'm too good to get hit. And that was the perfect answer, in my opinion. I'm too good to get hit. Okay? That was Shakur's statement. Okay? And that's him. He's technically perfect, but commercially problematic. Because as a promoter, you probably would like him to, perform and put on a show for the fans. But he's being smart. Now, Teofimo took a different path, Teofimo took a completely different path. And where Shakur was patient, Teofimo was aggressive. His current record is 22-1. He has 13 KOs. That Lomachenko fight changed everything, in my opinion. Like, Teofimo wasn't just good. He was being called the face of boxing, the next superstar. ESPN put him on every broadcast out there. But then came the fall. If you recall, in November of 2021, he lost to Gambozos Jr. by split decision in New York. He lost all his belt, and that was basically the biggest upset of the year. Teofimo went from the future boxing, or the future of the face of boxing, to people saying, hey, what the heck happened? What happened? So after that Gambozos fight, Teofimo moved up to 140 and begin his process in rebuilding. He went on to win 6 fights and now made 4 title defenses at 140 pounds. He's rebuilt his reputation, and he's holding the Ring Magazine champion too. But that Gambozos fight, the loss still haunts him. You can imagine, having a perfect record and then lose to someone. It would light a fire under you, and it will make you feel like you have to avenge that loss. And the only way to do it is to basically, fight the very best, and that will prove that he's elite. So the key difference here is that Shakur has never lost. He's never been hurt. He reminds me a little bit of Floyd. Teofimo has been at the mountaintop and in the valley. He knows what both sides feel like, okay? He knows the winning side and also the loss. And it's until you lose that you actually can get those feelings. So that experience gap might matter on January 31st. Okay, so when did this rivalry go from mutual respect to I want to punch your face in? Okay, let's walk through that timeline of that trash talk. In 2019, okay, I think 2019 to 2020, before COVID, I think that seed was planted. So after Shakur beat Gonzalez to win the featherweight title, Teofimo was ringside for ESPN. He congratulated Shakur, and he says, when you move up, I'll be waiting for you. Okay? Shakur's response, you'll be waiting for a long time because I'm cleaning the featherweight division first. You know, that interaction, it was competitive, but still respectful. October of 2020, now we're into COVID here. Lomachenko fights, that changes everything. Teofimo upsets Lomachenko. He's suddenly the biggest name in boxing under 30. And in the post-fight interview, if you recall, he was asked about Shakur. Teofimo's response, Shakur is good. Don't get me wrong, but I'm on another level. And he said that Shakur hasn't fought anybody. Immediately, Shakur goes to Twitter, now X, congratulate the champ, but says, don't get it twisted. You're not built like me. Now, here, I think, is where things started to take a turn. Okay? And 2001, 2002, the call-outs begin. After Shakur moves up and beats Herring, he calls out Teofimo directly in the ring. He says, Teofimo, I know you're watching. I want that fight. Stop hiding. Stop ducking me. And, of course, we go back to Twitter to see what Teofimo is saying. He's saying, what are you talking about, bro? Hiding? I just beat Lomachenko. And you beat a 36-year-old Herring. We're not the same. Well, Lomachenko is a big name. And Teofimo's right. Lomachenko is a big name. So unless you come up with somebody to the caliber of Lomachenko, in his mind, he's saying, you know, this is not even comparable. So here, the beef is officially on. Okay? After Teofimo loses to Gambozes, Shakur, of course, finds the opportunity to say something, right? And he tweets, listen, this is when hype meets reality. I tried to tell y'all. Okay. Now, obviously, that was a kind of like a direct jab, you know, at Teofimo, right? And Teofimo responds, talk to me when you fight someone in their prime instead of picking opponents. So here is where things start to get a bit nasty, you know. Shakur is accusing Teofimo for being overrated, and Teofimo is accusing Shakur of being boring and cherry picking. Okay, and you know, if you're an outsider, if you're a fan, and you're looking at both of their, you know, what they're both saying, it makes sense for each side, right? But when Teofimo moves to 140, Shakur is still at 135, and they're in different divisions, so they can't really fight each other. But, you know, the call-outs continue. You know, they're talking about exposing each other. Teofimo is saying, come up to 140. I'll knock you out. Neither wants to move. But having belts at their respective weights, the fight was looking as if things were kind of impossible. And then last year, everything changes, okay? Bob Arum, top-ranked CEO, and Eddie Hearn start negotiating. Shakur agrees to move to 140. The money's right. Both fighters see the commercial value in this fight. And suddenly, after years of back and forth, the fight is announced for January 31st at Madison Square Garden. Okay, this is a problem in boxing, that you see a lot of delays into making the best possible fights, because there's a lot of dancing around trying to make things happen. Okay, a lot of talks on Twitter or X, and not a lot of action. Okay, so that's why this is a great fight, because these guys are in their prime. We're not waiting for someone to be old, or we're not waiting for someone to, not be in their prime. We want to see this fight now. And actually, it will benefit each fighter, whether it's boxing or MMA, to fight in their prime. Fight the very best in your prime. So at the New York press conference in December, the tension was very thick. Teofimo is saying to him, hey, you've been running your mouth for 5 years. Now I get to shut it. Shakur is saying, hey, you got beat by Cambosis. I never lost. The math is simple. January 31st, we're going to find out if Teofimo's power is going to knock Shakur out, or we're going to see if Shakur is too fast and skilled and smart, like to outsmart him. So they had to be separated during the face-off, and we all saw that it was a real animosity. It started to build, right? And I think the closer the fight goes, the more intense it's going to be. But I think at the bottom of all of this, like, they still going to have respect for each other. So I'm not worried about a crazy beef or whatnot. I know these guys know that they are each very good and that they have great respect for one another. So the question everybody asks, if this fight has been brewing since 2019, why did it take 7 years? What makes these fights take so long? Well, guys, welcome to the business of boxing, where the best don't always fight the best. And I think that's one of the reason why Dana White started with the Zuffa boxing, because in his mind he wants to bring a change about this, where the best fights the best. Okay, nothing wrong in that. But in terms of the business side of things, I think the first reason you could say was the weight class. For most of their career, they didn't fight, in the same weight classes. So it's hard to make fights when you're not in the same weight class. The second reason is different career stages. When Teofimo beat Lomachenko in 2020, he was the A side. He had all the leverage. Why would he fight Shakur, who was still building, when he could fight bigger names for more money? When Teofimo lost to Cambosis, he became the number one who needed to rebuild. Shakur had leverage, but no incentive to risk his O against a guy coming off a loss. So timing was never right. The third reason, I think, is promotional politics. Both fighters are with Top Rank. This is Bob Arum's company, which actually makes it easier than cross-promotional fights. But even within the same promotion, there is what we call risk management. Top Rank didn't want to lose one of their stars' undefeated records unless the money was right. They slow played it. And the fourth reason, money splits. Who's the A side? Who gets 60-40? Who gets pay-per-view points? These negotiations take years in boxing for some reason. And I don't understand it, but, we're seeing these things play out in real time. Teofimo wanted to be paid like the star who beat Lomachenko. Shakur wanted equal money because he's undefeated and he has more titles. So you have a situation where neither would budge until recently, right? And the fifth reason is the fans finally forced this. You know, by 2025, the boxing world was screaming, give us this fight. Guys, stop talking on Twitter and, doing all this media nonsense. Like, let's just get in the ring. We want to see this fight. And, when you have fans asking for the fight, you have to make the fight. You have to do it because that basically tell you that they're willing to pay. They're willing to pay for this fight. So the pressure got so intense that both fighters basically had to realize, hey, if we don't fight now, our legacy suffer and we're going to lose out on a big payday. So here we are, Madison Square Garden, January 31st. And having this at MSG is perfect. Both guys are East Coast fighters. Shakur is from Newark. Teofimo is from Brooklyn. This is basically in the backyard, so the crowd will be insane. And honestly, MSG makes every fight look super big. Okay, this isn't the Vegas glitz. This is the New York grit. Okay, so it's going to be exciting. All right, before we discuss what's on the line for both fighters, all right, we have to talk about something important, which is looking the part. Whether you're training, watching fights at a restaurant, or just repping combat sports in your daily life, your gear matters, and that's where GorillaChoke.com comes in. Gorilla Choke makes premium fight wear for people who actually know the sport. I'm not talking about those over-the-top designs with skulls and flames everywhere. I'm talking about clean, modern apparel that let people know that you're about combat sport life without looking that you're trying too hard. Here's what I love. Their stuff actually holds up. I've been wearing their hoodie for months. You see it on all the videos, and it still looks brand new. No fading, no stretching, no cheap screen printing that cracks after a couple of washes. Plus, they support actual fighters in gyms. They're not just some company cashing in on MMA hype. They're part of the community. So I encourage you to head to GorillaChoke.com right now and use the code FRENZY20 for 20% off your entire order. That's FRENZY20 at the checkout. So whether you're training or you need training gear or you just want to, look good in the street and look sharp, Gorilla Choke has you covered. GorillaChoke.com, premium fight wear for real fans. So go check them out. Now let's get back to the breakdown. Let's talk what's really on the line January 31st. This isn't just about a belt, okay? This is, for Shakur, is basically his legacy fight. If he beat Teofimo, he basically silenced the critics, who basically has been saying that he's boring and this and that. So he silenced them, and he gets to say that I beat the guy who beat Lomachenko. I beat the guy that everybody is saying has too much power. All right. This win makes him undeniable the pound for pound great. That's just my opinion here. But if Shakur loses, if Teofimo knocks him out, his entire career narrative changes. Okay, the undefeated record is gone, and The whole "I'm too slick to get hit" aura basically shatters. And all those boring fights suddenly make things look like they were nothing. Okay, they were all for nothing. Like it's a whole, hey, I fought this way to be technical, and now you lose, right? So it takes the slickness away. And for Shakur, this is basically validation, I will say. For Teofimo, this is, I keep messing up his name, Teofimo. This is his redemption fight. That Kambosa's loss will basically follow him forever unless he does something, like I said earlier, shocking, right? Something spectacular, like beat somebody like Shakur Stevenson. And beating someone like Shakur doesn't just win him another belt. It proves that 2020 wasn't a fluke. It proves that he's elite. Okay, since like you see here, he's fighting as a young guy. Like, it proves that he's elite. Okay, and that's what you have to understand. Him winning this is going to, I think, bring his star level to another dimension. Okay, so this is Teofimo saying, "I'm back. I'm back. The real takeover is here, and I just beat the guy everyone thought was better than me." But if he loses, guys, especially if he gets outboxed for 12 rounds, people will say that he was never as good as we thought. That Lomachenko fight was past his prime. That Kambosa's exposed him. So Teofimo is fighting for legacy. And, of course, in every fight, there's also ego involved. These two genuinely, at this point, I don't think they like each other anymore. But like I said earlier, I think this is pre-fight scenarios, where some fighters, they're not going to like each other. But after the fight, I think they will still have a mad respect for each other, right? So this is kind of like, it got to the point where years of trashing, each other online, now it becomes personal. Shakur thinks Teofimo is overconfident, loudmouth, who got lucky. Teofimo thinks Shakur is a boring point fighter who's been protected. Okay, but January 31st, somebody's narrative is getting destroyed. Okay, so here's where we are. Two elite fighters, both in their primes, okay, both with something to prove, and a rivalry that has been building since they were teenagers, you could say, right? Or at least they have been observing each other since their teenage stage. All right, so the knockout artist is Teofimo Lopez, and he shocked the world once. He could do it again. And then we have Shakur. He's a technical wizard. He's defensively a mastermind. And he never lost. And he doesn't plan to lose now. So January 31st, Madison Square Garden on DAZN pay-per-view. This is the fight that boxing fans have been demanding for years. And it's finally happening. Here's my take. The trash talk has been building for over a decade. The styles are fascinating. The personal stakes are massive. And somebody's undefeated record or redemption story is ending that night. This isn't just about a good fight. This is about, it's like a defining fight. Okay, so what I want you to do is drop your prediction in the comments. Who wins? How does it end? And if you have, if you have insights, in your understanding of boxing on which round, how do you think this will play out? Please let us know. Are you team Shakur? Are you team Lopez? And again, I'm gonna say this: things could change in a split second. That's what I love about the combat sport. Things could change in a second. So make sure you tune in. And once again, I'm going to ask you to subscribe, like this video, because I'm bringing good content. I do my homework, try to research everything that I'm talking about, but make sure you subscribe, because next week we'll be looking at UFC 325, the main card event. I'm doing a full tactical breakdown of this fight, how each guy will win and what to watch for, and also will give my official prediction. So here we have it. This is From the Amateur to MSG, the real history of Lopez versus Stevenson. The wait is almost over. The rivalry is about to be settled. January 31st. Don't blink. Let's go.
Fight frenzy. Damn, crazy.